Hi people!
Hello everyone!
Welcome back to Counting Thoughts. Welcome to anybody new who has started listening to Counting Thoughts. This month we're discussing all thoughts pertaining to love that revolve around love in some way or the other. And today's topic is going to be intimacy types, because apparently when we talk about intimacy we just sort of consider physical intimacy, which is very far away from truth. I'm Yasha, this is Anmol, and we're going to take you through intimacy types, and hope by the end of the episode you have a broader understanding of intimacy.
I hope this thought of ours brings change to...
Because that's the whole idea, to bring change one thought at a time. What is intimacy? Pehle to, let's just
begin with the basics.
In its simplest definition, intimacy is the degree of closeness you and your partner share. So the quality of a couple's intimacy is one of the most significant predictors of the relationship's health and stability. Healthy intimacy is associated with happiness as well.
A lack of intimacy is one of the most common causes of distress for couples and can cause significant emotional turmoil.
Yes, it can. Yes.
Couples often cite a lack of intimacy as a reason of separation.
Generally, if you try to Google कि कितने टाइप की इंटिमेसी होती है, some searches would tell you 12, some searches would tell you 9, some would say 3. From what I understood, if you plot all these researches into a Venn diagram, 6 is a number that was a intersection between all these blogs and searches that I came across.
The average median.
So let's just discuss one intimacy at a time and try to explain it to you what it is. And we'll begin with physical intimacy, because this is one intimacy that everybody understands.
When we speak of the term intimacy, I think this is the one that comes to your mind. Mostly it's the top 3.
I think it's the first intimacy that comes into your mind as soon as you hear the word intimacy. Alright, so physical intimacy is the type of closeness you have physically with your partner. In a romantic setting, physical intimacy would usually not be exclusively expressed through the act of having sex. So that's not the only way your physical intimacy would
be defined. So physical intimacy could look different at different stages in life. At 60, maybe physical intimacy is holding hands, but at 20, maybe physical intimacy is, staying in the room locked for 48 hours. It could mean different for every 20-year-old.
Yeah, yes, and it could mean different for different people also. Generally, give or take, for instance, for a 50-year-old, having a dance together or having a walk together could define physical intimacy. But as I said, for a 60-year-old couple, holding hands could be intimacy.
Right.
So which is why physical intimacy extends to, hugging, kissing, forehead kisses, any sort of physical closeness. But there are other ways of developing intimacy with your loved one apart from physical closeness. In fact, we can be missing out on so much if you don't totally understand what physical intimacy means to your partner. For somebody, hugging could be a very intimate act.
Right.
For somebody, holding hands in public could be a very intimate act. Cultivating as many types of intimacy as possible is also important, because physical intimacy is culture dependent also. Why I say this is because PDA is not something that people would notice in a country like America, but in a country like India, especially if you're not living in a metropolitan city, people would notice.
Oh, you'll be scanned well.
People would notice.
It's more than just having sex. Sexual intimacy is also about sharing fantasies, desires,
as I said,
and needs.
Yes.
Very important. Ultimately, it creates a safe space to open up to each other about what you like, what you don't like, without the fear of being judged or shut out.
हाँ, मतलब अगर ये एक डिस्कशन नहीं हो पा रहा कि दिस इज हाउ आई वुड लाइक टू गिव और रिसीव प्लेजर, तो भाई
दिक्कत है मेरे हिसाब से.
See, the second kind of intimacy that we're going to discuss is emotional intimacy, because apparently this is one intimacy that we seek but not acknowledge.
Right.
Sharing our fears, our concerns, and our dreams with your partner without the fear of being judged. Okay, so there was a time in my life I was scared, like actual scared of. So you go to the loo and you flush in the bathroom, so that sound that comes of the flush, I was scared of that. I can share it now because I don't care anymore,
Because you're over it
and
now.
I'm over it. But at that point in time, sharing it with my own family was a big deal. Emotional intimacy mein, when you're sharing your fears, your dreams, your desires, anything that is private, emotionally private to you, if the other person judges you or ridicules you or like tries to be sarcastic about it, you would shut down. And that will not happen intentionally, that will happen unintentionally. Your brain will tell you that this is not a safe space to share your emotions because your emotions are not being acknowledged here. Right? Having emotional intimacy is obviously hard work, because not only do you have to be open, but when you are open with somebody, you expect the other person to be open and vulnerable with you as well. This cannot be a one-sided thing.
Because only when you trust a person emotionally, that is when you share something with them. And when you can talk about anything with each other, that is when you can have those emotionally difficult conversations.
Matlab, basically you need to acknowledge and respect baggage. You need to acknowledge and respect future dreams. You need to acknowledge and respect current worries and
You're supposed
joy.
to acknowledge them, but you're not supposed to carry it. There's a difference.
Yes, there is a difference.
So if you cannot handle it, you cannot उठा के तुम किसी और को डाल सकते, because then that is
I was raised this ways is a shitty explanation.
Then mend your ways of however you're raised. I'm not saying I'm raised in all the right ways. I'm saying there are still a lot of things that I need to learn. Right?
But then
But I'm willing to learn.
That sounds like a you problem. That is not a me problem.
So by truly trying to understand each other's worlds, you need to embrace honesty, vulnerability, which leads to emotional closeness. From there, you learn to lean on one another, embrace positive perspectives, manage conflicts, achieve your dreams, and create shared meaning.
A conversation is a two-sided thing. It is not the other person telling you everything that has gone well or gone wrong in their life or in their day, in their week, in their month. It has to be.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. You need to tell them something. Or you need to give something as
To
well.
begin with.
So the other intimacy that needs to be acknowledged is intellectual intimacy. And I don't know what the term is. There are people who are attracted to other people because they're smart. Anmol is that
because
person.
they're intellectual.
Anmol is people.
And I am people. If I feel, ये मेरे को बड़ा रहता है. I'll be very honest. आज admit कर लेते हैं because. But I strongly feel when I'm with someone, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but if they're talking useless stuff, मैं चुपचाप वहाँ से कट लेती हूँ. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि this is waste of time. I'm not getting to learn anything here. When I'm having a conversation with someone, and I'm not saying कि intelligent conversation का मतलब ये है कि तुमको algebra आना चाहिए और तुम IIT या IIM से पढ़े हो. No. Intelligent conversation मतलब you are street smart to have a conversation. You can teach me something that I am not aware about.
Without sounds, like, so there is a subtext. You teach her something, but you can't be smug about it.
You can't. Yes. So getting back to intellectual intimacy.
Yes. So intellectual intimacy refers to sharing feelings and discussing views or thoughts. These could be related to the plans of your future, your values, or your opinions about social or political issues without getting into arguments. So say suppose you know something and you're trying to discuss it with your partner, or you try to discuss it with anybody. You cannot demean the other person. Just because I know something, I cannot be demeaning to the other person. I think I was in grade 7, if I'm not mistaken. I think I was studying physics or mathematics, and my mother read a problem and she questioned about measurements. So instead of saying measurements, she said measurements. But then this is how she was taught. So this is how she learnt, and this is how she spoke to me. And I was a smug child, obnoxiously smug, I would say. And I corrected my mother there and then, because I wanted to be correct, not because I wanted to uplift her, not because I had her well-being in mind or I had love in my heart. I corrected her because I knew something that she did not know. I knew something that she was doing wrong, right? So I said measurement होता है, measurement नहीं होता है. I think her dialogue was कि ये जितना तुम्हारी पढ़ाई पे खर्चा हो रहा है ना, इसका मेजरमेंट भी कर लो जरा एक बार को. In all this,
she put you back in place.
Yes, she put me back in place. In an intellectual conversation, say suppose my partner wants to discuss about business, for instance. If they are having that discussion to find flaws, to find mistakes that I've made, or the things that are not perfect about my business, I would not want to have that conversation with him.
Yes, because when you are having an intellectual intimacy with a person, this type of intimacy is usually born out of deep respect for each other and for their understanding of the world, how you perceive this world, right? So even if it's different from ours, it can be different. The opinions can be different. But having said that, it's hard to feel close to someone whose values are not, aligning diametrically or are opposed to ours. So finding like-minded souls is necessary to build intellectual bond. Theoretical intellectual bonds are usually found in our workplace or in our educational place. कब क्यों बोलते हैं हम कि अच्छा दादू दादी या नाना नानी जो हैं वो सियाने हैं, तो उनकी बात, बिकॉज उनको हमसे ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस है.
Like maturity does not come with age, neither does experience come with age.
That's true.
Experience comes with how many experiences you're having on a day-to-day basis. Like if your Monday to Friday looks the same throughout the year, you're not having many new experiences. But then if your Monday and Wednesday never look alike, you are having new experiences, and having experiences is important. The whole point is you are able to have controversial conversations, because controversial conversations is something that lead to the expansion of your horizons. But controversial conversations without ego is something that is important. So much like emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy requires vulnerability, hands down, and it also allows a safe space to talk about tough topics. Ranbir Allahabadia, if I'm not mistaken, he had a guest in his show, and that guest said that he was talking about marriage basically. So he said that if there is a radical difference between the growth of both partners, eventually there will be a time where you will not be standing on the same planes, and then the gap will keep increasing, because a person with a growth mindset or a person who wants to grow will keep growing, and this gap somehow takes over, and then love is not enough. Hence, intellectual intimacy is important.
Moving forward, let's discuss the fourth kind of intimacy, which is experiential intimacy.
Yes.
Like we were talking, this is a type of intimacy that develops people who go through the same struggles, joys, or experiences. Finding someone who has gone through the same as us can and does bring people together. For example, our siblings.
When we say millennials, तो हम बोलते हैं कि that we used to listen to cassette tapes, and we used to have DVRs and stuff like that.
बढ़िया ज़माना था, please.
She's able to relate to it because she's had that experience. Off topic, but pro tip. You can create a list. There is a setting where you can share through a link, so anybody who has access to that link will be able to listen to that playlist. So it's not going to be the same experience as making a cassette and sending it to them, but you can have an experience together, and that would increase your intimacy. Like the whole point is that the experience that we shared together. I think अनमोल ने अपने जीवन में इतने म्यूजियम और इतने आर्ट वो नहीं विजिट किए जिसको इस बेचारी को मेरे साथ करने पड़ गए.
I was on my Dora the Explorer
phase that helped our intimacy grow. So having an experience with your partner will help your intimacy grow.
Move forward to creative intimacy.
Yes.
So this type of intimacy fosters self-expression through shared acts of creativity. It's normal to feel closer or develop intimate relationships with people whose creative expression takes the same form as ours, whether it's writing, dancing, painting, cooking, etc.
I think this is true. I write. So basically what I'm trying to say is that if you have a creative outlet and your partner also somehow has a similar creative outlet, you will enhance your creativity plus one, and you will enhance your intimacy based off of that creativity.
Yes.
So like if I am writing poetry and my partner is also writing, irrespective of what kind, irrespective of language, does not matter, because they're writing something and the essence of it is same, we'll have that bond together.
And you'll also have that there's a much needed inspiration that you get from the other person when your creative intimacy is aligned.
Creative intimacy involves planning, creating things together. That act of coming together, thinking, brainstorming, planning and creating something together is going to build our intimacy. Like ऐसे बहुत कम लोग होते हैं जिनके ऐसे creative streaks same होते हैं, but then both of you can probably make a list and think of things that you can do together.
Moving forward, the sixth intimacy which is required and is important to discuss is spiritual intimacy. So this doesn't just mean that you're sharing your religious beliefs with others. So spiritual intimacy also extends to beliefs, values and morals on a wider scales. In a sense, it's similar to intellectual intimacy, but with a focus on personal growth.
Even if there is somebody who does not believe in universe, so to speak, but are willing to entertain the idea of ki haan theek hai, I don't believe in it, you believe in it.
Yeah.
I cannot question your belief. So ultimately this is the basis of all religions, I believe, all belief systems, that you cannot question someone else's belief. Like if they believe in a certain thing, they believe in that certain thing.
ये मेरा opinion है. One thing that should remain your top priority is how humane you are. Types of intimacies can act as a roadmap to finding overall happiness, satisfaction, connectedness in your relationship.
Expanding your intimacy will help you gain mutual respect, mutual trust and mutual understanding, and that is going to help you sustain your relationship and have a healthy relationship with your partner. There are certain things you can do to nurture the different kinds of intimacies. Here on we will discuss those.
So how to nurture different types of intimacies, because now that we know what are the different types of intimacies, now we also need to learn how we can nurture those intimacies and bring out the best. Here are some tips on how to develop the different types of intimacies. Number 1, accept vulnerability. So becoming intimate with others require a higher degree of personal involvement, and this can sometimes make us feel vulnerable. But it is this vulnerability that makes us human, and there's nothing wrong in sharing worries or negative emotions. And Yasha is looking at me like this because like I said,
she needs to learn this.
I need to learn this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the second one is being able to trust people, because true intimacy is based on trust, basically. So there is a very cliche saying that true love is trusting the other person with your heart, knowing that they can damage it, but having the faith that they will not.
Trust can be eroded if people we have faith in react in unexpected or unsupportive ways.
Amen.
Express your feelings openly without making any accusations.
They are responsible for adding to your happiness. Curating that happiness inside of you is totally your job, your responsibility. You cannot put that on the other person. So communication is not ordering. You need to give the other person space to say no. So you make a request. And trust me when I say this, if your partner expresses their discomfort regarding a situation and you are not putting efforts to resolve that, they will know. And if you are putting efforts to resolve it, they will also know then. So which brings me to the other thing that you can do is you can cherish everything. You
being
cannot
present there fully. ऐसा नहीं cherishing the company और तुम phone पे लगे हो. I am, oh my.
be patient with each other. Not everyone communicates in the same manner, in the same pace, in the same language. And by language I don't mean language as in English, Hindi. Language as in your expression. Some people communicate in words, and some people communicate through actions, and some people communicate through sheer emotion. So and your medium could be different. So even if I communicate through words, I could communicate better when I write, wherein somebody could communicate better when they speak. There could be somebody else who could communicate through someone else's words, like using poetry, or because not everybody is going to communicate in the same manner, in the same pace. You need to be able to communicate and be patient about के मेरा ये expectation है और तुम्हारा क्या expectation है type scene. It's not going to be 50-50 always. Some days it's going to be 30-70, 70-30. Some days, bad days, it could be 10-90 also. But
which
then,
is okay.
Which is okay if it's some days. If it's always, not
then
okay.
It's not okay. Intimacies are worth cultivating.
Yes.
With my partner, I would want to have हर लेवल की इंटीमेसी भी चाहिए, हर लेवल की कॉन्वर्सेशन भी चाहिए, हर लेवल का एक्सप्रेशन चाहिए. And why not?
Okay, do not expect to be able to build every type of intimacy. For instance, there could be a couple who has more spiritual intimacy and less physical intimacy.
Yeah.
But that would work, because ऐसा नहीं होगा कि वो 100 and 0 होगा. ऐसा होगा that something is at maybe 90 and something is at 30, but then you have it. These are the kind of intimacies that we would suggest that you inculcate with your partners and enhance your relationship.
Yes.
And strengthen your relationship.